Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Thank you for joining me wherever you are joining me. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. If you're joining me on the YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Happy Hump Day. It's an interesting time of year, right? With the football, with NFL going into the playoffs, and now the college football is beyond us. Congratulations again to the University of Georgia for that dismantling of the Horned Frogs, TCU. But this is what always gets me. How do we decide whether or not a quarterback needs to be moved on from? I ask this because it always seems as if we're ready to move on from some quarterbacks a lot faster than others. I remember last year as Jalen Hurts led his team to the playoffs in an offense that he was in for the first time in only his second year in the league, his first year as a full-time starter, with a different coaching staff. So 2 years, 2 different coaching staffs. People believing that the Eagles needed to go into the draft and draft another quarterback. He went through that entire season while leading that team to the playoffs, only to hear time and time again how the Eagles needed to draft a quarterback for this coming season. He heard it the entire time. Coaching staff didn't do him any favors. They didn't come out with rousing endorsements. They didn't to shut up the noise. Hey, this is our quarterback. They didn't do any of that. So he just took the shots. He just took the arrows continually, over and over and over again. All that we heard in every projection, in every mock draft before this man was even put out of the playoffs, they were mocking quarterbacks to go to Philadelphia. There's no way that Jalen Hurts can be the starting quarterback. He doesn't have this. He doesn't do this. So look at what he did this year. Then Jalen Hurts in year 2 of an offensive system, when they add one piece, and then this is what I really like for people to remember. It's not like they went out and added a whole bunch of things. They added one receiver. That's it on offense. It's the same running back, the same other wide receivers, same tight end. They added one receiver. But it's another year in the system. And Jalen Hurts started doing this year what he did his entire football career, which is be awesome, be an MVP candidate, be somebody that other quarterbacks aspire to be. And he did all of that while walking with confidence, while staying humble and endearing himself to his teammates who love him. And as he continued to progress and as he continued to work through it, they continued to try to diss him. Well, Gardner Minshew came in there, and I know they lost, but he threw for 300 and something yards. And is it really Hurts, or is it the system? That all types of disrespect. Then we saw what happened when you're without Hurts for more than just one game. Two games out, 2 losses. 2 games out, 2 losses. One, an embarrassing one. The quarterback looked inept, looked scared, looked like pretty much like he's always looked to me. And then Hurts comes back, not 100%, leads his team to a victory. Now people are saying, oh, well, yeah, they're set at quarterback. No. They're still like, well, look who he has around him. He's got 2 great receivers. He's got a tight end. He's got a running back. He's got an offensive line. Wait a minute. The guy before him had the same stuff. He had that running back. He had that tight end. He had one of those receivers. He had that offensive line. He had that defense. The guy, his predecessor, had the same stuff outside of one receiver. By the way, a receiver that most of the people out there said wasn't really that good because of how much he lacked when he was with the Titans. They said he wasn't that good. They said he wasn't that good. Now, all of a sudden, he's a top 5 wide receiver in the league. And none of that has to do with the quarterback? Somebody make it make sense. So then we turn our attention to Justin Fields. And at the beginning of the year, they told us that the Chicago Bears, that their team, that their roster was the worst roster in football. More awful than Houston. More awful than Houston. The worst roster in football. That was their roster. And yet, with the worst roster in football and the worst offense in football and the offensive line being trash and the wide receivers being non-existent, with all of those things apparent, Justin Fields is the problem. Beginning of the year, they're doing stuff that doesn't fit his style, doesn't fit what he does best. They struggle. They flip things, start to work to his strengths, stay away from the overall team's weaknesses. They have success. The roster didn't get better, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Fields got better. They put the ball in Justin Fields' hands and say, you do it. Yes, he was sacked a million times. Why? Because they're awful. Their team is not good. I don't need advanced analytics and stats to tell me that their offensive line was not good at blocking. I don't need stats and analytics to tell me that their wide receivers couldn't catch a cold in the winter. They can't get open. I don't need stats and advanced analytics to tell me these things. Why? Because I've played the game. I coached the game. I analyzed the game. I see it. That is not what stats or analytics are supposed to be used for. I don't have to wonder if an offensive line is good or bad by looking at stats. If I watch the film, I know that offensive line ain't that. Well, but their PFF ranking was those wide receivers aren't that. Well, their PFF ranking is, and these other teams are. No, that's not how it works. If you can't look at the product on the field and see that it is subpar, then that's a you issue. That's a you issue. It's not a me issue. It's a you issue. And so within there, trying to quantify what Justin Fields is or is not in that environment is foolhardy. You didn't do it to Trevor Lawrence last year when he was in an environment that wasn't set up to succeed, and he had way better weapons. He had a better offensive line. He had better receivers. He had better running backs. He had all of those things. He had all of those things that you would need to be successful. The coaching wasn't what he would want it to be, but he had all those things to be successful. He was not successful. One thing changed: the coaching environment. The coaching environment changed. He got a year older, a year more mature in the offense. He had success. but his success isn't even that impressive. It's not like he's out there putting up like Patrick Mahomes numbers. This is a guy who was supposed to be the next coming. This is a guy that's supposed to be the next coming. He was supposed to be the Andrew Luck with more speed, the Peyton Manning with more speed. He hasn't been that. No one's saying, oh, we got to go back in. When he had that miserable season, Davis Mills, who had a horrible season, when he was in there, thrust in there at quarterback at the end of the season, people went, oh, I would love to see what he does. I would love to see what he does with another season. So all of the things that we have afforded to these others don't get afforded to Hurts. They don't get afforded to Fields. People are just ready to punt on these. We're ready to just punt on Hurts. Now they're wrong. Now they're backtracking and using all these other different reasons to why he's good. They're going to be wrong on Fields, and when they are, they're going to use all of these things to backtrack why they were wrong. Oh, well, that's what they did with Lamar Jackson. With Lamar Jackson, they said, well, he just got better. That coaching staff did a really good job of getting him better. With Hurts, they were like, well, he got better, but also look at the weapons around him. Well, man, who doesn't have weapons around them that's a good quarterback? Justin Herbert, with two good receivers, tight ends, and running backs, couldn't get to the playoffs until this year. And this year, he barely made the playoffs with all of the weapons known to man. With all of the weapons known to man, he could barely get to the playoffs. And yet nobody has talked about replacing him. In fact, they've elevated him to a level that would make you think he was Patrick Mahomes. But we all know he's not Patrick Mahomes. We all know that he's not that caliber dude. But you would think it by listening to the way people talk about him. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't jibe with the way in which we're supposed to think about our situations when it comes to the quarterback. Whatever happened to development? Whatever happened to allowing somebody to grow? Whatever happened to allowing someone to get better on the job? The things that Justin Fields did this year with what he had to work with in, again, a new system with new people, what he had to do, what he had to endure, nobody's sitting back going, man, that guy has those intangibles that I would absolutely want as a quarterback. We know he can throw the ball. Why? Because he threw it all over the yard at Ohio State. We obviously know he can run because he's one of the leading rushers in the league at quarterback. He couldn't be stopped. Supposedly he couldn't throw. Everybody knew he was going to run, and he still was able to run. So within there, that level of success, that level of moxie, that level of toughness to be able to go through this and never blink, never flinch, never point the finger, never blame anybody. That's something that we can't just blow by. And now we get people going, well, what if the Ravens call about Justin Fields and ask the Falcons what they would give for Lamar Jackson? So this is what we're going to do. We're going to play black quarterback Roulette. Hey, let's just take all the athletic black quarterbacks and just start shuffling them to the other teams that have already had athletic black quarterbacks. Because that's how we have success. Let's just shuffle them all around. Let's pay these other people. Let's pay these other people all this money. These other guys who haven't done anything, who haven't achieved anything, who haven't reached any pinnacles. Let's pay them all this money. Daniel Jones deserves $50 million according to some people. No, sorry, I shouldn't even say some people. He deserves $40 million according to Lawrence Tynes, the former kicker. $40 million for 14 touchdowns. 14 passing touchdowns, another, I want to say 8 to 10 on the ground. I'm not sure because I'm not looking at his stats, but now I'm going to bring them up because I don't want to sell him short. Daniel Jones has had a good season for Daniel Jones. He's had a good season for Daniel Jones. 15 touchdowns, passing. 15 touchdowns passing. And another 7 touchdowns rushing. A 25-year-old quarterback, like 4 years in the league, that's something. Like, would I be interested in him being back? Of course. For $40 million, no. For $40 million, no. 15 touchdown passes, 7 rushes, it's 22 touchdowns. 22 touchdowns. So we got 22 touchdowns. We got 11 turnovers. Come on, like, because I mean, fumbles are a turnover. So 22 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3,200 yards passing, 700 yards rushing. Yeah, okay, cool. Like, it's a good year for him. But if Lamar Jackson has that year, if that's the year that Lamar Jackson has, if Lamar Jackson played in all of his games and he ended up with 15 touchdown passes and 5 interceptions for 3,200 yards, what would we be saying? You can't pay that man. They don't want to pay him now, and he is a unanimous MVP. He has been the sole reason why the Baltimore Ravens have been relevant over the last 4 seasons. And even with that, 5 seasons. And even with that, they still don't want to pay him. This man's quarterback record is 45-16-0. He has been to the playoffs every year of his career except last year. Does not know what a losing record looks like. He is the Mike Tomlin of quarterbacks. Doesn't know what a losing season looks like. Pro Bowler. And this year, in only 12 games, he has 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. In 12 games, 17 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Daniel Jones has 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions in 17 games. 16 games because he didn't play week 17. Yet, there are people who are ready to give this man $40 million and don't believe that Lamar Jackson is worth 50? To the point where we're ready to double down on this guy. But this other dude, right? We're ready to double down on the 25-year-old quarterback in his 4th year. But we're not ready to double down on the 25-year-old quarterback in his 5th year who has reached way higher levels, who has done way more things. Somebody make it make sense, because it doesn't make any sense to me. And every time I try to think about it, all I keep thinking is there's a double standard. There's a double standard. And I wish it didn't exist so I didn't have to talk about it, but it does. Tua's got to go because he's injury prone. How many injury prone quarterbacks have we seen in the league continually get opportunities? When Hurts does well, it's because of his team, because of all the weapons he has. But when Joe Burrow does well, it's just because Joe Burrow's good? Somebody please help me understand that. So Joe Burrow, who has 3 legitimate receiving weapons, a tight end, a couple running backs, he's only doing it because he's Joe Burrow. But Jalen Hurts, who has a couple good receivers, a tight end, a running back, he's only doing it because of them, but they couldn't do it without him. When they had other quarterbacks, they didn't produce like that. When they had other quarterbacks, they didn't produce like that. It was only once Hurts was here that they produced like that. You gotta give him his due. That's all I'm saying. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Salt Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens. Do this thing a few times a week. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, whatever you do. Keep it spicy. Till next time. Peace.